First off, I want to preface this video by saying that this video is a school project intended to help add to the conversation regarding racism in America. My target audience will be people who watch my channel and might want to learn more about me. So if you don't want to watch this video because you feel that it might be too much for you, then feel free to leave. It should come as no surprise to you that throughout human history, one thing has always seemed to trail human progress: the belief that you are better than the other, or, as is relevant in this video, that people of different colors than you must be lesser, or that you are lesser than someone because of your skin color. If we are going to choose a word to agree on to describe this belief, I believe it should be racism. Racism is one of the longest standing human constructs next to the evolution of modern day humans, and rivaling that of the creation of fire. Ever since a man could think of loving someone, they could also think of hating someone. Julius Caesar once conquered the Gallic region and turned a vast amount of their population into slaves, which were treated abhorrently and could even be killed for any reason, with no punishment to the owner of the slave. The British and French, throughout most of recorded time since their kingdoms were founded, had been constantly at each other's throats in what is known as the Anglo-French Wars, which was only constantly spurred on by their pure hatred for each other until rather recently in time. Even our very own founding fathers were not without their dabs into racism, with George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and Patrick Henry being slave owners. And for the sake of my project, it is racism in America that I'll be focusing on. Although America is not alone in having racism, it is the topic I have the most expertise in, since I was born an American and live as an American. In today's America, we have seen multiple examples of how racism has embedded itself within our culture. Examples can range from the actions of the groups like the Proud Boys, the KKK, and neo-Nazis, to the killing of George Floyd, and even to the known racist things that Donald Trump has said and or tweeted. The Constitution and the government, and any other major institution that is fundamental to America's creation, was all created in a time where slaves were a norm and race hating was an everyday practice for many. Due to this fact, America grew up with racism and had to make a major concession during the Civil War to ensure our position would not fall to the racist Confederates that fought to maintain slavery, possibly even into the modern day if they could manage it. Despite the sacrifices that the brave men who fought to protect the Union made, why is it that we still can't seem to all agree that racism is bad? It's almost like we just refuse to make amends for the actions we have taken that harm others. We see all the time clips of government officials saying racist things or simply supporting the racist actions of someone else. We see photos of government officials who in the past wore blackface, while Fox News attempts everything it can to protect racists, and even joining in on racism from time.
So they are standing firm, and I think that Nancy Pelosi is going to have a hard time contending with a lot of these women who are very, very strong, they're very, very principled, and they are not backing down.
Without a doubt. You know, we're not the only ones to notice. President Trump tweeting this morning this. So interesting to see progressive Democrat congresswomen who originally came from countries whose governments are a complete and total catastrophe, the worst, most corrupt and inept anywhere in the world, if they even have a functioning government at all, now loudly and viciously telling the people of the United States, the greatest and most powerful nation on earth, how our government is to be run. Why don't they go back and help fix the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came? Then come back and show us how it is done. These places need your help badly. You can't leave fast enough. I'm sure that Nancy Pelosi would be very happy to quickly work out free travel arrangements. This tweet that you're just seeing now is clearly going to get, I think, a lot of discussion.
Someone's feeling very comedic.
We can't allow for racism to continue. Something you might be wondering is, how can we identify racism? Well, it's really quite simple. 1. Does it in some way fall in line with the 5 faces of oppression, which is exploitation, marginalization, powerlessness, cultural imperialism, and violence? 2. Is what you are hearing or seeing in some way meant to berate someone based upon skin color or ethnic heritage? 3. Is the material inherently offensive? 4. Is what is being discussed backed by fact-checked and proven evidence? And lastly, 5. Is the speaker or writer a reputable person who who is using the language in a manner that is understood to be satire or unharmful. Obviously, all 5 checks are relative to varying amounts based upon what you're hearing or viewing. I am by no means an expert regarding societal issues and how to solve them, and just like the majority of people who end up seeing this, I am learning constantly how to adapt my thinking to be able to identify and break down racism from commentary. But we can't simply allow racism to go unchecked. Backing down isn't an option that ever ends well regarding social issues like racism, poverty, and disenfranchisement. The micro of this sort of issue is within us, the individual, and our own beliefs. The meso of this issue is within our local communities and the combined belief we all share. The macro of this issue is with all of America. If we can't tackle the issues within the micro, we can't hope to fight the macro. So I'm asking anyone who is listening or watching this video, please at the very least make an effort to tell people when what they said is wrong. Telling government officials that blackface is racist needs to stop. Tell neo-Nazis that Nazis were bad and that being a part of the white supremacist mindset is an evil thing to do. And more importantly, discuss with yourself about whether or not what you believe is right is truly what is right. If your beliefs of another person's worth conflict with another's point of view, discuss that and see what is causing the rift between your beliefs. I ask that after this video is over, you discuss racism and try to fix it, not with violence, but with understanding and respect. I also ask that you make your opinion heard. You never know when someone who needs you will see your support and will be able to be happier due to your support. Okay, so this part of the video is going to be about explaining some of the concepts I discussed earlier in this project and how it's important that this project connects these concepts I learned from my college class into my argument. The 5 faces of oppression are, as was mentioned earlier, exploitation, marginalization, powerlessness, cultural imperialism, and violence. I'm sure you understand at least 4 out of 5 of these terms just by seeing them. But you might not understand cultural imperialism, so just to be safe, cultural imperialism is when a culture maintains a relationship that favors those with wealth and great opportunities. Racism uses all 5 of the faces of oppression in an attempt to stomp out the will and power of the minority or weak. The second major connection I want to discuss is micro, meso, and macro oppression. These 3 levels, as discussed, are individual, community, and society. Individual oppression can be things like friends start treating you different after you come out gay, or your teacher gives you lower grades because you're black. Community oppression is things like restaurants refusing to serve someone based upon the color of their skin or sexuality. And societal oppression is the cultural mindset we are all raised with. These things can range from the mere acceptance of racism towards someone all the way up to being active in your attempts to make sure someone different than you can't live a safe and happy life by changing laws, community norms, and public tones of discussion. The 5 faces of oppression and racism are practically hand in hand through the micro, meso, and macro levels of society. And throughout my time spent in my humanities class, I learned just how important it is to recognize this fact and what I can attempt to do to fight against it. For my final thing, I want to ask a question. Martin Luther King and Abraham Lincoln. Above all else, what was the one thing that made these brave men unlike anyone in today's America? I'll wait. One thing that bonded these men was how deeply they truly held their beliefs. And despite any amount of lashback, Abraham Lincoln was constantly being attacked by his own party and by the opposition party just for the beliefs that he held. And you already know that Martin Luther King was constantly under attack by police and white people just for trying to have civil rights be discussed. But despite all of that, they would continue to fight for what they believed in, for what they believed was right. And tragically, they both fought for their beliefs until someone who believed that in white supremacy came and shot them down. Thanks for giving my video some time out of your day. I know this video isn't the best at convincing people, but I mainly just wanted to attempt to add to the discussion and get anyone who needed to hear my opinion the clarity they may have been seeking. I hope you have a good day.